Hey guys, it's Nina. Welcome back to my channel. So a few months ago, I showed you guys when I cut part of my locks that were damaged from color. Unfortunately, I still have to say that I still have some damage. So I decided to try something a little bit different this time and actually repair some locks versus just continuing to cut. So if you're interested, keep watching. Here's how my locks are looking right now. I still have the damage. As you can see, the part that's kind of coming unraveled and it's creating this hinge. And I also have some ends that are really loose and kind of frayed from the cutting. So I'm using crochet hooks in the 0.50 and the 0.75 millimeters. This is my first time using these. I will link to these in the description box, but I just want to be really clear. Please try this at your own risk. Take responsibility for your own hair. This is not a prescription for anyone. This is just something that I wanted to try. And also it is possible to lose some length, especially in my case where I had damage. So just be prepared for that. Alright, so here is the first lock, the first end, I should say, the guinea pig that I'm going to try to tighten up. Guys, when I started this, I realized I was just doing this all wrong. I had looked at one video, okay, and decided that I would be able to do it. But this technique that you see right here that I'm doing is just, it ended up being a waste pretty much. And then I decided, what if I folded the end over like this to kind of create some bulk, something for the hook to actually grab. So I folded the end over just a little bit, I put the hook in, and then I started to just do this back and forth motion, rolling the end of the lock as I went, just pulling back and forth, making sure to get those hairs all nice and tangled as much as possible. And the hooks are faced down while I'm doing this. Then when I felt like I did enough, I started to palm roll the ends of my hair just to encourage everything to stay together. So this is the before and this is the after. So after all that, I still wasn't really satisfied, so I decided to fold it again and continue this process. This time kind of taking that folded piece and pulling it through, like I guess actually crocheting it through the lock versus doing the back and forth motion. So you can see I'm just pulling, and this actually, it might look a little rougher than it actually is. I really just wanted to make sure I got everything tight. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a more efficient way to do this. This is how I ended up doing it though. Also for this lock, I was using the 0.75 millimeters. I think I probably should have used the 0.50, but I wanted to see if the bigger hooks would actually catch more hair. And they did, but on the flip side, it was harder to get it out of my head. You saw I just yanked it. So that's why I say try this at your own risk. There probably is a more elegant way to do it. But after a few pulls, I felt like the lock was where I wanted it to be, in the shape that I wanted. It was very tight, it was very sealed. There was still some hair coming out at the end, but if you look at this compared to one of the damaged locks like this, it looked way better. So for this damaged lock, I decided that I would just go ahead and cut it because it was just too much hair to try to fold over. And then I tried opening up the lock, opening up the end, so I had some good frayed, tangly hair to work with. And then I just folded that over again to start the process. And so one thing I learned doing this is that you really do need some good tangled hair. I tried cutting one of the locks just a little bit on the ends and then tried to crochet that together, and that didn't work because you need something to grip, and if you have blunt ends, it's not going to work. I also alternated between two motions. The first one is what I'm doing now, where I'm just taking the crochet hook back and forth and I'm rolling the hairs as I go, and then palm rolling it to encourage it to seal again. And the second motion was taking that folded piece and pulling it towards the inside of the lock as much as I possibly could. That motion is a little bit slower, but as you can see, the hair slowly was starting to compress, and that was just encouraging a tighter seal. I'll also say I didn't fret too much about any extra loose hair that was remaining because the point is it looked better than before. And on to the next one. I decided to just pull off that little beady bead at the end. So a couple of things to note, a couple things that I learned throughout this process. Number one, can you see how red my thumb is? You probably can't. You can see like it pressing, the lock pressing the skin. My thumbs got really raw doing this, so it hurt. And also make sure that you keep the hooks pointed down, because when I had them pointed up for a minute, they scratched my fingers and it just was not good. Also, one weird and funny observation. So all of this movement made my hair stink. It made my locks smell like burnt hair. And when you think about it, I guess it makes sense, because this is how you make fire, right? I guess that's how cavemen made fire, rubbing their hands together, rubbing the stick, whatever. And so my hair literally smelled like, you know, some old dirty hair that somebody tried to flat iron. So that was one thing. Another thing, and this is really important, this is a process. You are not going to get this on the first time. I mean, if you're very fortunate, hey, that's amazing, but I did not get this on the first time. This took several passes to get everything really good and sealed. So if you do try this, just extend yourself some grace and know that this will take time. I feel like I'm really going to see how well I did with this once I wash my locks and then, you know, the ends are wet and everything. But I'm happy to say that most of these stayed sealed. I'd say like probably 90% of the ones that I did with this technique, with both of these techniques, they stayed sealed. So just to recap on what I did, I used 0.50 and 0.75 millimeter hooks pointed up. I folded a bit of the loose end over. I did a back and forth motion with the finger roll. I also did a threading motion where I pulled the hooks into the lock, and then I palm rolled afterwards. So that is all for this video. I hope you guys were amused and curious about this, because I definitely am. I was curious when I saw this technique. And so I'm just really glad that I tried it. Let me know if you know a better way to do this, a more efficient way to do this, definitely. I think if you have ends that are curly and you don't want them to be, or ends that are damaged, I think this is a good option. I think that if you start conservatively, there's not really much to lose, because at the end of the day, for me, I would rather have healthy hair versus long hair that's all frayed. So that's why I just went ahead and did this. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.